Welcome to this deep dive. Today we're heading back to the late Cretaceous. We're going to explore a really fascinating dinosaur called Heyuannia.
Yeah, Heyuannia. We've got some great source material lined up, scientific papers, encyclopedic entries. It gives a pretty detailed picture, actually.
Right. And our goal is to pull out, the key insights about this creature, understand its place in the prehistoric world.
Exactly. And Heyuannia is particularly interesting because it lets us get into the world of Oviraptorids. They're maybe not as famous as, say, T-Rex, but they're incredibly important for understanding bird evolution.
Oh, absolutely.
So this deep dive, it's not just about the dinosaur itself. It's also kind of about how science works, isn't it?
Yeah, the process of discovery, naming.
And even the revisions, the corrections that happen as we learn more, it's all part of it.
Okay, so let's start with the basics then. The name Heyuannia, it literally just means from Heyuan, right?
Right, pretty much, yeah. Direct link to the city in China where it was first found.
And it lived. Late Cretaceous.
Late Cretaceous, yeah. In places we now know as China and also Mongolia.
And its significance. Why focus on this one?
Well, Heyuannia huangyi, the first species described, was actually the first Oviraptorid found in China.
Ah, okay.
Uh,
Because most others were from Mongolia before that.
Exactly. So finding it in China sort of broadened the map for these guys. And there are two species we know of now.
Right, Heyuannia huangyi and Heyuannia yanchini.
That's them. And that geographical spread, China and Mongolia, it suggests these Oviraptorids might have been, more widespread across Asia than maybe we first thought.
Interesting.
Plus, each species has its own story, its own kind of discovery saga.
Okay, let's get into Heyuannia huangyi first then.
Yeah.
Named in 2002.
Yes, by Lu Jinsheng, a paleontologist. The genus name, Heyuannia, like we said, refers to Heyuan City.
And huangyi. That's named after someone.
Yeah, in honor of Hong Dong. He was the director of the Heyuan Museum at the time.
Nice. And the first fossil, the holotype. Where did that come from exactly?
It was found in Guangdong province near Huangsha. Geologically speaking, it's from the Dalangshan Formation.
Okay. Like a specific rock layer.
Exactly. Think of it like a chapter in Earth's history recorded in those rocks. And this first find, it was a partial skeleton, but crucially, it included the skull. HYMV11, that's the specimen number.
And they found more since then.
Oh yeah, get this. 6 more skeletons have been found and referred to this species.
Wow. Okay, so quite a bit of material.
A good amount. And what really stands out, especially from Heyuan, is just the sheer volume of fossils, not just skeletons.
What else?
Well, there's one fossil that researchers think might even preserve possible reproductive organs.
Really? That's incredibly rare, isn't it?
Extremely rare. If confirmed, it could give us amazing insights into their biology.
And you mentioned eggs, too.
Thousands. The Heyuan site has yielded thousands of fossil eggs. Now, we can't say for sure every single one is Heyuannia, but it's very likely many of them belong to this dinosaur.
So that gives us a window into nesting, maybe even parental care?
Precisely. A fantastic opportunity.
Okay, fascinating stuff on H. huangyi. Now, let's switch to the other species, Heyuannia yanchini. You said its story was a bit more complex.
Yeah, you could say that. So originally, back in 1981, it was named Heyuannia yanchini.
Ingenia, different genus name entirely.
Totally different. Named by Rinchen Barsbold. Heyuannia came from the Injin-Kobor Depression in Mongolia, where those fossils were found. And yanchini was in honor of his advisor, Alexander Yanshin.
Okay, so far so good. Where does the complexity come in?
Well, the original Heyuannia yanchini material,
Right.
It wasn't based on just one fossil. It was a composite.
Meaning?
It was pieced together from bits of 4 different individuals. And here's the real kicker.
Uh-oh.
One of those pieces, which was actually thought to be the skull of Heyuannia, turned out to belong to a completely different Oviraptorid called Conchoraptor.
Whoa. Okay, so the original description was based on mixed-up parts.
Essentially, yes. It really shows you how tricky paleontology can be, especially with fragmented fossils. You piece things together based on what you have, but sometimes new finds or closer looks change the picture.
Right. Initial interpretations get revised. That composite nature must have caused some issues.
It did. And then there was another problem. The name Ingenia itself.
What was wrong with it?
It was already taken, preoccupied, as they say in taxonomy.
Taken by what?
A type of nematode worm, Ingenia mirabilis, named way back in 1957.
A worm. Okay, so the dinosaur name wasn't valid?
Exactly. Rules are rules in scientific naming, so it needed a new genus name. In 2013, Jesse Easter proposed a Janssengenia jansseni.
A Janssengenia, what does that mean?
It means a traveler in Mongolian, but the story behind it is kind of unusual. It's apparently a Western pop culture nod to hitchhiking.
Hitchhiking, why?
It references the dinosaur's thumb claw, which is unusually large, bit of an odd connection maybe.
Huh. That's memorable, I guess.
It is, but then things changed again. In 2018, Gregory Funston and his colleagues took another look. They argued that these jansseni specimens, despite the earlier confusion, actually fit best within the Heyuannia genus, alongside Heyuangia.
So they proposed moving it.
Yes, they proposed the name Heyuannia jansseni, and that's now the generally accepted classification.
Wow. So it went from Ingenia to A. Janssengenia and finally landed as Heyuannia jansseni. Quite the journey.
A real taxonomic adventure, you could say.
Definitely. So, okay, after all that naming drama, what did Heyuannia actually look like, size-wise?
Gregorius Paul estimated it around 1.5 meters long, maybe 20 kilograms.
So roughly like a large dog.
Yeah, something like that. Not huge, but not tiny either.
And the skull.
Relatively short, quite a steep snout profile. And like other oviraptorids, completely toothless.
Right, that toothless beak is a key feature.
Yep.
Any other distinguishing characteristics?
Well, its arms were notably short, the whole forelimb, including the digits, and the first digit, the thumb we mentioned.
The hitchhiking thumb.
Yeah, that one. It was particularly reduced, actually, despite the later naming story focusing on a large claw, which was probably based on the composite material. The actual Heyuannia thumb is small.
Interesting. So short arms, reduced thumb. What might that tell us about how it lived?
Well, the specifics are still debated, you know.
Yeah.
The toothless meek suggests maybe eggs, seeds, mollusks, soft-bodied animals. Something that didn't need much tearing.
And the short arms.
That's interesting, too. Some related oviraptorids had more developed arms. The reduction in Heyuannia could mean its arms played, well, maybe a less significant role in feeding or manipulation compared to some of its relatives.
Okay. And where does it fit in the bigger dinosaur family tree? Oviraptoridae, obviously.
Yes, Lu Jinchong placed it there right away in 2002. Makes sense given the features, but pinning down its exact spot within that family has been tricky.
How so?
Different studies have put it in slightly different places, sometimes within the Oviraptorinae subfamily, sometimes within the Ingeneri, though that subfamily name is also complicated because of the whole Ingenia issue.
Right.
Yeah.
More taxonomic tangles.
Yeah, but interestingly, Liu also suggested something quite broad based on Heyuannia's shoulder bones.
What was that?
He proposed that the shoulder girdle morphology actually supports the idea that Oviraptorosaurs, as a whole group, were secondarily flightless, descendants of bird-like ancestors that had lost the ability to fly.
Wow, okay. That's a big claim, linking Heyuannia's anatomy to the whole dinosaur-bird transition.
It is, and it feeds into those ongoing debates. Now, there are cladograms, like the one from Funston's 2017 paper.
Those family tree diagrams.
Exactly. They show visually how different species are thought to be related. In that one, you see Heyuangia and Jansseni branching off near other oviraptorids like Nominja, Oviraptor, and the famous Siddipati.
So looking at those branches helps us understand their evolutionary connections.
Precisely. It gives us a hypothesis about their relationships based on shared characteristics.
Cool. Okay, let's shift gears slightly. You mentioned eggs earlier. What was special about Heyuannia's eggs?
This is really neat. Fossilized eggshells have been found with pigments preserved.
Actual color.
Actual color. They show that Heyuannia laid blue-green eggs.
Blue-green, like a robin's egg.
Sort of, yeah. The color comes from pigments called viliverdin and protoporphyrin. Same stuff found in many modern bird eggs.
That's amazing. Why blue-green, though? Any ideas?
Well, it likely served a couple of functions, probably similar to birds today. One idea is camouflage.
Blending in with foliage, maybe?
Exactly, making them harder for predators to spot in the nest. But it might also have been about signaling.
Signaling to other Heyuannia.
Potentially. The brightness or intensity of the blue-green could have signaled something about the health or quality of the mother who laid them. We see similar things in birds.
Interesting. Like the blue eggs of robins, or you mentioned emus?
Yeah, emus and other ratites often have greenish eggs. It seems this kind of coloration, serving camouflage or signaling or both, evolved multiple times.
And how the eggs were found, did that tell us anything?
It did. The arrangement of the eggshells in some finds suggests that they built partially open nests. Not fully buried, but maybe in a scrape or depression, somewhat exposed.
Okay, so open nests, colorful eggs possibly for signaling. Does that point towards parental care?
It certainly hints at it, yeah.
Yeah.
If your eggs are visible for signaling, or even just camouflaged rather than buried, it implies a parent might be sticking around to guard them. It fits with other evidence for parental care in Oviraptorids, like those famous fossils of Psittacipitae found brooding over nests.
Right, those are incredible fossils. So Heyuannia adds another piece to that puzzle of Oviraptorids being potentially quite attentive parents.
Exactly. It builds this picture of more complex reproductive behaviors than maybe we used to think for dinosaurs. Very bird-like in many ways.
Okay, so let's sort of wrap this up. To bring our deep dive to a close, Heyuannia. It was this really cool Oviraptorid from late Cretaceous Asia.
Yeah, first of its kind found in China. Two species, H. huangyi and H. yanshini, each with a story. Especially yanshini with that whole naming saga.
Right, the Ingenia to Ajansagenia to Heyuannia journey.
Mm-hmm.
And physically, it was medium-sized, toothless, short arms that reduced thumb.
Its exact spot in the family tree is still a bit fuzzy, but its anatomy, like that shoulder girdle, potentially links to bigger evolutionary questions about birds.
And the eggs. Can't forget the blue-green eggs.
Definitely not. Blue-green eggs found in possibly open nests, suggesting a good degree of parental care.
So this leaves us with a final thought for you, the listener. We know about the blue-green eggs, the potential parental care. What other behaviors might Heyuannia have had that fossils just haven't shown us yet?
Yeah, and how did its specific world, late Cretaceous China and Mongolia, shape these features? How did that environment influence the colors, the nesting, maybe other things we haven't even thought of?
It's a great reminder, isn't it? Even with amazing finds like Heyuannia, there's always so much more to discover, so many questions left about life on ancient Earth.